For thousands of years, the people of the Nile Valley spent their entire lives preparing for a single moment, the day they would die. But this fixation on the afterlife did not create a gloomy or morbid society. Instead, it operated as an engine. The intense preparation for eternity forced them to master the science of the living world. This obsession was made possible by a geographic anomaly. Every summer, the Nile River flooded in a predictable rhythm, leaving behind a thick layer of incredibly fertile black soil. This guaranteed a massive surplus of food year after year. They were also surrounded by vast, unforgiving deserts to the east and west, and the Mediterranean Sea to the north. These massive natural boundaries kept foreign invaders out, meaning the daily, exhausting struggle for survival that plagued other ancient cultures simply did not exist here. Because their physical survival in the present was so completely guaranteed, their greatest minds turned to a singular, monumental problem: figuring out how to make this perfect, stable existence last for eternity. According to their faith, human consciousness was divided into distinct life forces, which they called the Ka and the Ba. But for the soul to survive in the afterlife, it absolutely required an intact, recognizable physical body to return to. To stop a corpse from rotting, the priests first had to perform complex surgery. They carefully extracted the internal organs, leaving only the heart inside, and sealed the vital organs away in these specific sacred containers called canopic jars. The hollowed-out body was then packed in a naturally occurring salt compound called natron. It was left to dry out completely for 40 to 70 days, stripping away every ounce of moisture before being wrapped in linen. By constantly performing this complex religious ritual, the priests were routinely opening up human bodies. Completely by accident, they became the ancient world's first true anatomists. The religious mandate to preserve the dead directly mapped the human body. They learned how to set broken bones, stitch deep wounds, and perform advanced surgical techniques. Methods so precise, they were meticulously documented in surviving medical texts like the Edwin Smith Papyrus. Once a pharaoh's body was perfectly preserved, that physical vessel needed an impenetrable, eternal vault to protect it from thieves and the elements forever. This need sparked a radical evolution in construction, starting with the architect Imhotep. At Saqqara, he built humanity's first massive stone structure, replacing traditional mud bricks with limestone to create a permanent, tiered monument. This architectural obsession reached its peak with the Great Pyramid of Giza. It was assembled using approximately 2.3 million individual blocks, with each block weighing an average of 2.5 tons. Stacking millions of stones required a leap in engineering. They invented a decimal system and calculated precise slopes using applied geometry. To perfectly align these colossal tombs, they mapped the night sky. By tracking the star Sirius, they created a highly accurate 365-day calendar. Every pyramid is a physical record of progress in applied mathematics and structural engineering. Their fear of death drove them to pioneer the physical sciences. Securing the physical body was half the battle. In Osiris's underworld court, the soul faced a terrifying test. A heart was weighed against Ma'at's feather of truth. If sin made it heavier, the monster Ammit devoured it. The soul would simply cease to exist. This absolute terror of spiritual annihilation acted as the ultimate law enforcement tool. The empire dissolved. The threat of losing eternity ensured strict social order, justice, and obedience among the living population. However, building an entire civilization focused on eternity eventually bankrupted the empire in the present. The astronomical economic drain of constantly building massive tombs, combined with periods of severe drought and political infighting with powerful priests, steadily eroded the centralized power of the pharaohs. As their internal strength collapsed, their natural geographic defenses failed. A relentless series of foreign powers, Nubians, Assyrians, Persians, and Greeks, easily breached the borders and conquered the territory. The 3,000-year-old independent civilization met its definitive end in 30 BC. Following the death of its final queen, Cleopatra, Egypt was fully absorbed as a province of the Roman Empire. The empire dissolved. The great temples fell silent, their hundreds of gods were forgotten, and their sacred hieroglyphic language was completely lost to time. For over 1,000 years, the civilization remained mute. Then, in 1822, scholars decoded the 3 distinct scripts on the Rosetta Stone, finally allowing these ancient voices to be heard once again. The Egyptian Empire ultimately failed to maintain its grip on the physical world, but their unrelenting obsession with the dead left a permanent blueprint for the living. We still rely on the tools they were forced to invent: the 365-day calendar guiding our year, the foundational mathematics used in modern engineering, and the systematic medical practices that map the human body all trace their roots directly back to the Nile. By laying the scientific foundations of modern human civilization, ancient Egypt successfully achieved the eternity they spent 3,000 years looking for.